The Ranger's Tale, the Phantom Lantern. For 2 years, I've patrolled the Appalachian Trail as a park ranger, navigating its winding paths through dense forests and rugged landscapes. I thought I'd encountered every challenge the trail could throw at me. Lost hikers, curious bears, mischievous campers sneaking in after hours, and pranksters trying to spook their friends. But nothing prepared me for the unsettling shift the forest takes when the sun dips below the horizon. My colleagues often spoke of the trail transforming at night, as if it became a different entity under the cloak of darkness. I dismissed their stories as exaggerations, the kind of lore spun around a campfire. That is, until one chilling autumn night that turned my skepticism into dread. There's a stretch of trail near my regular patrol route, a secluded area shadowed by a deep ravine, where strict regulations forbid camping or fires. The ravine's steep drop has claimed too many lives over the years, its jagged rocks and treacherous slopes a constant reminder of nature's unforgiving side. As rangers, we enforce these rules rigorously, escorting anyone foolish enough to linger after dark back to safer ground. That night, just past midnight, I was alone on patrol, my boots crunching softly on the gravel path. The forest was eerily still, the usual chorus of nocturnal creatures, owls hooting, crickets chirping, replaced by an oppressive silence that pressed against my ears. As I rounded a bend, a faint glow caught my eye, flickering through the trees like a distant star. It wasn't the steady beam of a headlamp or the warm flicker of a campfire. This light shimmered, swaying gently as if carried by an unseen hand. My first thought was that some reckless hiker had ignored the no camping rule, but the glow's ethereal quality unsettled me. It resembled the dim flicker of an antique lantern, something you'd see in a museum, not in the hands of a modern backpacker. Curiosity tugged at me, overriding the unease creeping up my spine. I stepped off the main trail, keeping my flashlight low to avoid detection, and moved toward the light. The forest seemed to shift as I ventured deeper. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of damp earth and pine, and my breath sounded unnaturally loud in the stillness. The light danced ahead, always just out of reach, weaving through the trees like a will-o'-the-wisp. Each time I thought I'd lost it, it reappeared, beckoning me farther into the woods. I'm not one for superstition. Years of training and logic have grounded me. But something about that light felt wrong, as if it were pulling me towards something I wasn't meant to find. I pressed on, rationalizing that I needed to ensure no one was breaking the rules. The underbrush grew denser, branches snagging at my uniform, roots rising like traps beneath my feet. The glow stopped abruptly, hovering in the darkness like a frozen flame. I crept closer, my heart pounding, until I was just yards away. Then, without warning, the light vanished, plunging the forest into inky blackness. My flashlight beam swept through the trees, revealing nothing but gnarled trunks and shadows that seemed to writhe in the corners of my vision. I called out, my voice sharp in the silence. "Hey, whoever's out there, show yourself!" No response. The forest remained mute, not even a whisper of wind to break the quiet. I took a few cautious steps forward, scanning for signs of a campsite. Footprints, broken twigs, anything. Then my beam caught a glint. Hanging from a low branch, swaying slightly as if touched by an invisible breeze, was an ancient lantern. Its rusted frame and grimy glass panels looked like relics from a bygone era, untouched by time yet heavy with its weight. There were no footprints, no signs of human presence, just the lantern dangling in the void. My skin prickled as I stared at it. every instinct screaming to leave. But duty held me there. An unattended flame in these dry woods was a disaster waiting to happen. With trembling hands, I reached for the lantern, its metal cold and gritty against my skin. I twisted the knob to extinguish the flame, and the darkness swallowed everything. I set the lantern back on the branch, my hands shaking as I wiped them on my pants and backed away, my eyes darting to every shadow. The trek back to the main trail was a blur of paranoia. Every few steps I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting the light to flicker back to life. By the time I reached the path, dawn's first rays were piercing the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink. Relief washed over me, but the memory of that lantern lingered like a splinter in my mind. The next day I returned to the spot, determined to find evidence of a camper or prankster. But the forest was pristine. No fire pits, no trash, no footprints. The lantern was gone, as if it had never existed. I still patrol those trails, but I avoid that stretch at night. Sometimes in the darkness I catch a fleeting glimmer through the trees, a ghostly flicker that vanishes when I turn to look. I tell myself it's just my flashlight reflecting off a leaf, but deep down, I know better. Something is out there, waiting in the shadows, and I have no intention of following its light again. After 25 years as a firefighter, I thought I'd seen it all. Blazing infernos, daring rescues, and moments that tested the limits of courage. But nothing prepared me for what I encountered on the Appalachian Trail one foggy morning. I'd set out before dawn, craving the solitude of the trail to shake off the weight of a long shift. The fog was thick, a heavy shroud that clung to the ground, muffling sound and blurring the world into a gray haze. I'd grown up hiking these trails, navigating misty mornings with ease, so I didn't think twice about the conditions. At 45, I was no stranger to the wilderness, and a quiet walk seemed like the perfect remedy for my exhaustion. I parked at the trailhead just before 5 a.m., my car's headlights barely cutting through the fog. The air was damp, carrying the scent of moss and pine, and the world felt hushed, as if the forest were holding its breath. I started up the trail, my boots sinking slightly into the soft earth, expecting the usual morning sounds. Birds greeting the dawn, squirrels chattering in the branches. But the silence was absolute, broken only by my own footsteps. About half a mile in, the trail widened into a clearing, and that's when I saw it. A figure standing motionless in the distance, maybe 40 yards away. At first, I assumed it was another hiker, perhaps disoriented in the fog. I called out, my voice flat and muted in the heavy air. "Hey, morning, you okay?" No response. The figure remained still, its silhouette tall and thin, head tilted slightly as if studying me. Something about its stillness unnerved me. No shifting of weight, no casual wave, just an unyielding presence. I took a few steps closer, squinting through the mist. The figure's head turned slightly, not toward me but to the side, as if listening to something I couldn't hear. The fog thinned momentarily, revealing a glimpse of pale, almost translucent skin that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. My stomach twisted, but I brushed it off as a trick of the fog and fatigue. I called out again, louder this time. "Everything all right up there?" Silence. Then the figure vanished. One moment it was there, solid and unmistakable. The next, the fog rolled over and it was gone. I hurried to the spot where it had stood, searching for footprints or signs of movement. Nothing. The ground was undisturbed, the air still. I tried to convince myself it was an optical illusion, the fog distorting a tree or a rock, but doubt gnawed at me. I continued down the trail, my pace quickening, when a scream shattered the silence. It was high-pitched, desperate, slicing through the fog like a blade. It sounded close, maybe 100 yards back along the path I'd just traveled. My firefighter instincts kicked in. Someone could be hurt. I shouted, "Hello? Where are you?" No answer. The scream didn't repeat, but its echo lingered in my mind, raw and haunting. Against my better judgment, I left the trail, pushing through the dense undergrowth toward the sound. The fog thickened, wrapping the trees in a ghostly veil. Every step felt like a gamble. I knew the risks of getting lost in such conditions, but that scream compelled me to act. As I moved deeper, I heard rustling, branches snapping, leaves crunching, as if something were moving just beyond my sight. I called out again, my voice trembling. "Is someone there?" The rustling grew louder, coming from multiple directions, as if I were being circled. My heart pounded, my senses straining to pinpoint the source. Then silence. I stood frozen, waiting, my breath shallow. Another snap, closer this time. I spun around, seeing nothing but fog and shadows. Panic crept in, but I forced myself to stay calm, muttering, "All right, time to head back." Finding the trail again was a nightmare. The fog had swallowed all landmarks, and every tree looked identical. I stumbled forward, hoping to retrace my steps, when another scream pierced the air, identical to the first, the same pitch and tone, like a recording played on loop. It felt wrong, unnatural. I froze, my blood running cold. Through the mist, I saw the figure again, closer now, its pale form barely discernible. It stood motionless, facing me, its features blurred but its presence undeniable. I took a step back and it seemed to dissolve, melting into the fog. My instincts screamed to run, but I couldn't tell which way was out. I pressed on, my heart hammering, until I stumbled upon a familiar tree, a gnarled oak I'd passed earlier. Relief flooded me as I followed it back to the trail. As the sun rose, the fog began to lift, revealing the familiar contours of the path. I didn't stop moving until I reached the parking lot, my car a beacon of safety. Glancing back, I saw nothing but trees, but the weight of that figure's gaze lingered. I haven't returned to that trail, and I can still hear that scream in my nightmares. Whatever I encountered wasn't human, and I'm not eager to find out what it was. As a teacher, I cherish the summer break, a chance to escape the classroom's chaos and recharge. This year, I planned a solo hike on the Appalachian Trail, dreaming of losing myself in nature's embrace. The idea of conquering a piece of the trail felt like a badge of honor, a story to share with my students. For the first few days, it was everything I'd hoped for. Miles of solitude, the scent of pine, the rustle of leaves underfoot. I'd passed the occasional hiker, but mostly it was just me, my tent, and the stars. On the third day, I noticed a narrow path branching off the main trail, framed by two towering trees whose branches formed a natural archway. It wasn't marked on my map, but curiosity tugged at me. Maybe it led to a hidden viewpoint or a secluded clearing. I adjusted my pack and stepped onto the path, expecting a short detour. The forest changed almost immediately. The canopy thickened, blocking out the sun, and the air grew heavy with the scent of damp moss. The path narrowed, forcing me to duck under branches and navigate tangled roots. The usual sounds of the trail, birds, wind, distant streams, faded, replaced by a suffocating silence. I told myself it would open up soon, but the path only grew wilder, the dirt giving way to mud and uneven ground. After half an hour, I realized I'd made a mistake. The trail was barely a trail anymore. just a faint gap between trees. Worse, I heard footsteps behind me. Soft, deliberate, matching my pace. I stopped listening, but the sound stopped too. I called out, hoping it was another hiker, but only silence answered. My heart quickened as I resumed walking, the footsteps starting again, closer now. I spun around expecting to see a deer or a fox, but the forest was empty. Panic set in as I tried to retrace my steps, but the path seemed to twist, leading me in circles. The same fallen log appeared again and again, mocking my efforts. My phone was useless. No signal, no GPS. The footsteps persisted, sometimes fading, sometimes so close I could almost feel a presence at my back. Shadows flickered in my peripheral vision, darting between trees. But when I looked, there was nothing. As dusk fell, I stumbled into a small clearing, a brief respite from the oppressive woods. I dropped my pack, my chest heaving, and scanned for a way out. A faint trail led from the clearing, and I followed it, desperate for escape. And a whisper drifted through the trees, soft, melodic, almost inviting. It drew me deeper, away from safety until it stopped abruptly, leaving me in deafening silence. Terror gripped me as I realized I was utterly lost, the forest a labyrinth with no exit. Hours passed, each step a battle against fear and exhaustion. Shadows seemed to move, watching me from just beyond my sight. Then through the trees I saw a faint light. I pushed toward it, driven by desperation, until I broke through to the main trail. Relief flooded me, but I didn't stop to question how I'd made it back. I haven't returned to the trail since. The forest let me go, but I can't shake the feeling that something was toying with me, luring me deeper only to release me at its whim. I tell anyone who asks, stick to the main path, avoid unmarked trails, and don't tempt the forest. It's alive in ways we can't understand, and it doesn't always let you leave. After a grueling week of ER shifts, I needed an escape. The Appalachian Trail's quieter stretches in Maine promise solitude, a chance to trade the chaos of beeping monitors for the serenity of nature. I set out early, my pack light, my mind eager to soak in the forest's calm. The trail was deserted, the golden sunlight filtering through the trees, the air rich with the scent of earth and pine. For the first hour, I was lost in the rhythm of my steps, the world feeling right again. Then about an hour past the trailhead, I noticed a figure standing off to the right, maybe 50 yards away. At first, I thought it was another hiker, perhaps taking a break, but their stillness was unsettling. Their form shrouded in shadow, yet glowing faintly, as if the sunlight bent unnaturally around them. Their skin looked pale, almost ghostly, and they faced me without moving. "Hey, you okay?" I called, my voice cutting through the quiet. No response. I took a step closer, hoping to ease my unease, but the figure remained frozen. Something about the posture, too rigid, too deliberate, set my nerves on edge. I hesitated, then took another step, and the figure turned, not with the jerky motion of a person, but with a smooth, gliding grace that sent a chill down my spine. They drifted deeper into the woods, vanishing without a sound. I tried to shake it off, blaming exhaustion in the play of light through the trees. But the encounter lingered, a nagging sense of wrongness. I continued hiking, checking over my shoulder, half expecting to see the figure again. And I did. Closer this time, maybe 30 yards away, standing in the same eerie stillness. My heart raced as I called out again, my voice sharper. "Is everything all right?" Silence. The figure turned and glided away, as if beckoning me to follow. I didn't. Instead, I quickened my pace, searching for familiar trail markers. The air grew colder as the trail dipped into a hollow, the sunlight dimming. I paused to catch my breath, and there it was again, a glimpse of pale skin behind a tree. I froze, my eyes locked on the spot, but it was gone. Fear took hold as I pushed toward the parking lot. My steps hurried, my senses hyper-alert. When I reached the clearing near the trailhead, I nearly sobbed with relief. But as I crossed the parking lot, I glanced back. There, at the edge of the woods, stood the figure, farther away but still watching, its pale form barely visible in the shadows. I fumbled with my keys, my hands trembling as I started the car. As I sped away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had escaped something unnatural, something that didn't belong in the daylight world. I haven't returned to that trail, and I don't plan to. Whatever I saw wasn't human, and it didn't want me there. The forest has its secrets, and I'm not brave enough to uncover them.